Welcome to the NiM Tyrans tanking guide. I will be occasionally pausing the video to explain fight mechanics. For this video, we have the tanks and melee DPS delete the platforms on the outer two rings of the room, while the healers and ranged DPS delete the platforms on the inner two rings of the room. My co-tank pulls the boss and tanks him in the middle of the room. I stand off to the side so that when Tyrans cast Simplification on my co-tank, I can immediately taunt Tyrans over to the intended path. Alternatively, you can bring him here immediately by having one tank get within 30 meters of Tyrans and pulling him. Meanwhile, the other tank waits for Tyrans to come down and taunts the boss once he is in range. This method makes it slightly harder to maintain aggro, but is otherwise viable. Tyrans cast Simplification on my co-tank. He runs over to the far platform while I taunt the boss over. When you receive Simplification, you will get a red circle which quickly shrinks down until it disappears. When the circle disappears, if you are on a platform, the platform will turn red and slowly disappear as well. If you are under a platform, the platform above you will turn red and disappear. I will demonstrate how to do this later in the fight. Further, Tyrants will ignore you once you receive Simplification, so this forces a tank swap. One of the melee DPS receives Simplification and deletes the platform behind them. Tyrants cast Thundering Blast. This move is a cleave that deals a lot of damage, so feel free to use cooldowns. Just be warned, he uses this quite often during the fight, so don't expect to have a cooldown available for every single Thundering Blast. Because of this move, you should always keep Tyrants pointed away from the melee DPS as well as the ranged and healers. Tyrants cast Inferno. This gives everyone in the raid an orange fire debuff. When the debuff wears off, you will drop a red circle wherever you are standing. This circle will burst into flames, which does a lot of damage. You can resist this damage by using abilities like Force Shroud. Regardless, you should stack as much fire together so that the melee DPS can continue DPSing Tyrants without killing themselves. Here, I wait for Tyrants to cast Thundering Blast, keeping him pointed away from the rest of the group. Once the cast finishes, I move to where my co-tank and the melee DPS are standing so that we all drop fire in the same spot. The Inferno debuff wears off, dropping circles on the ground, and we move out of them before they turn into fire. Tyrants cast Simplification on me. My co-tank taunts during the cast while I jump down to delete the tile to my right. I stand underneath the tile and wait for the circle to disappear. If you are having trouble getting under the correct tile, feel free to angle your camera upwards so that you know whether you are standing under your intended tile. Then I gain a red, green, and yellow debuff. The red debuff means that Tyrants is ignoring me. You get this debuff whenever you are standing underneath the platforms. If everyone in the raid has this debuff, Tyrants will wipe the group. The green debuff is a dot which cannot be cleansed. The yellow debuff will appear after you receive Simplification. You must click on the Dread Transposer at the bottom of Tyrant's room to remove the yellow debuff. If this debuff wears off, you will instantly die. So always jump down and click on the Dread Transposer after you get Simplification. Make sure you click on it after your co-tank's first taunt wears off. If not, when you come back up, Tyrants will aggro on you and move away from your co-tank. This will throw off the general rhythm of the fight and may lead to incorrect tiles being deleted or DPS having less uptime on the boss. Tyrants does have a tighter DPS check, so it is important to keep Tyrants' locations predictable for the DPS. Tyrants cast Inferno and I stack with the melee DPS. My co-tank waits for Thundering Blast, then stacks on top of the rest of us, so that we all drop fire in the same spot. I move ahead to the next tanking location and wait for Simplification. If your group is following this strat, you will want to be careful when you reach this platform. Depending on how Simplifications go out, you can very easily outrange the healers at this point. Since the healers need to stack with the ranged DPS, they will be less inclined to move into range to heal you. Thus, you have a couple options. First, you can obviously use cooldowns until the healers move into range. However, this can take a while, and using up all of your cooldowns is a bad idea in this fight since Tyrans is constantly dealing a lot of damage. My second suggestion is to move as close to Tyrans as possible while keeping him pointed away from the group. These couple extra meters you move up often are the amount that you need to get into range of at least one of the healers. Regardless, throughout the fight, make sure you to watch your ops frames so that you know when the healers are out of range. Tyrans cast Inferno. I wait for Thundering Blast and stack with the rest of the melee to drop fire. Move out of the fire and wait for Simplification. Once I receive Simplification, I jump down and stand under the tile to my right. I click on the Dread Transposer so that I cleanse the yellow debuff and return to attacking Tyrans. Inferno goes out and we stack. Since the ranged and healers are getting ahead of us, I move forward. Feel free to skip tiles, but make sure you delete them later. Jugs and PTs will have to run for it if there's no one on the platform for you to intercede or translocate with, respectively. Here, I thought the melee DPS was going to delete the tile we were standing on, so I move ahead. He actually deleted another tile, so if I wanted, I could have stayed where I was. However, my co-tank would need to bring Tyrants to this platform next, so it's not that big of a deal that I moved here early. Inferno goes out, the melee stack by the wall, and drop the fire there. I am relatively low on health before Simplification goes out, but the healers top me off so that I can survive the fall. Always make sure your healers know which tank is receiving Simplification so that that tank has enough health to survive the fall. I pop Hydraulics and run over to the far platform. I successfully delete it and return to the fight. After Inferno wears off, I get into position for the next tank swap. I skip ahead so that the healers will stay in range even after their range group receives Simplification. This is another spot where healers often outrange the tanks, so feel free to skip platforms if necessary. Here, I run to the platform rather than get underneath it since the tile is adjacent to the one I'm currently on. I typically delete tiles from below only if the tile is further away or I don't have a direct path to it. During this part of the fight, the range will start deleting the tiles which you spawn on after clicking the Dread Transposer. It is very common to spawn and immediately fall back down. To avoid this, spam your leap ability after clicking the transposer so that you leap to Tyrants before you start falling again. I move ahead so that the range group stay within 30 meters of myself and Tyrants. And with that, Tyrants is dead. For the Empire.